Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. 10 days after a powerful quake sent Cebu reeling, Davao Oriental is struck by a magnitude 7.4 tremor today. FIVOX, though, was quick to dismiss any connection between the two earthquakes.
And a full plate for the DPWH as it tackles quake-proofing public structures while still waiting through the flood control scandal. Let's see how Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon is managing when we speak to him later on in the program.
And the ICC has rejected the request of former President Rodrigo Duterte for temporary freedom, saying he remains to be a flight risk and a threat to his alleged victims.
Anak, Lord, Jesus name.
Oh! Grabe, linaw! Hey!
We begin with yet another powerful earthquake, this time in Mindanao. Immediately, casualties and damage were reported as authorities continue assessments as we speak. But FIVOX immediately clarified that this recent tremor had anything to do with the quakes in Cebu and northern Luzon. Mobile journalist Arles de los Santos has tonight's big story.
Strong shaking startled residents of Manay, Davao del Norte this morning. Many ran to open spaces or to safer shelter. Others were frozen by fear and halted whatever it was they were doing. While workers and students went out of offices and schools, it was chaos, all right, and as expected, after a magnitude 7.4 quake jolted the region. In Mati City, a girl was crushed underneath a collapsed wall. The tremor were also felt in Davao de Oro. There were lots of screaming, with some residents trying to hold on to something or to each other for balance. At the Davao del Sur Provincial Hospital, patients were evacuated out of the facility for safety. It was the same panic in Davao City as people rushed out of their homes for fear of being caught under the rubble. Activities were on a standstill for several nerve-wracking seconds as the ground and structure shook. In this school, part of the roof collapsed while students were still inside. In Butuan City, Caraga, motorists over Magsaysay Bridge hit their brakes as tremor continued for what felt like an eternity. In already quake-stricken Cebu, the quake was felt as well. The shaking was not only experienced down south. Legazpi City and Albay and other provinces way up like Leyte were also jolted. And there were many more areas and people thrown into utter fear when the earth shook. 3 have been reported dead in the aftermath of the quake, with 2 of them dying of heart attack. According to FIVOX, the Davao Oriental tremor was caused by a movement in the Philippine Trench. But it was quick to clarify that this is not connected to the quakes that struck Cebu and northern Luzon in the last 10 days. Cebu's earthquake was triggered by a movement of the Bogo Bay Fault, while the one in La Union was caused by shaking in the Philippine Fault.
These are all not connected. Yung paggalaw ng ating mga active faults ay yung mga active faults natin are independent from each other unless they're very close to each other. Pwedeng magkaroon ng what we call the stress transfer. But in this case, masyado na pong malayo. These are all normal activities. The Philippines is very much active tectonically. And we have more than 180 active fault segments. And we also have 6 trenches. And there's always this possibility na magkakaroon ng paglindol sunod-sunod.
FIVOX issued a tsunami warning along the coastal area in Manao, Davao Oriental minutes after the quake. The alert was lifted after a couple of hours, and fortunately, the feared tsunami did not happen. But FIVOX says residents shouldn't let their guards down just yet and be prepared as the threat of aftershocks remain. Kapatid Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon has ordered the suspension of road reblocking projects nationwide. Dizon says these projects are also likely to be money-making schemes. Tonight, Secretary Dizon joins us to discuss this and more. Welcome back to the Big Story, Secretary Vince.
Shawn and Pauline, good evening.
We can hear the tiredness in your voice. Triple whammy na, Secretary. Ano ba ang priority?
Okay.
What is your priority at this time?
Well, tomorrow po, we were instructed by the President to immediately go to Davao, Davao region, specifically Davao Oriental. So Secretary Rex Gatchalian, Secretary Sani Angara, and myself will be going to Mindanao tomorrow morning to assess the damage and to provide immediate relief to those affected by this very, very strong earthquake in southern Mindanao.
Well, your department is in charge of retrofitting and checking the integrity of government structures. You haven't quite finished, I would suppose, in Cebu. Tell us what's happening in Cebu and then now how you will do this in Davao.
In Cebu, Seth, all the national highways have been cleared already. Now the process of reconstructing and repairing and rebuilding the damaged bridges and roads, as well as the damaged facilities, especially the Bogo Provincial Hospital, are already ongoing. Hopefully, we will be able to finish the major works that need to be done within the month of October. Pero nga, ito, tumama na naman itong malakas na lindol sa Mindanao. So, kanina pong hapon, pagkatama po ng lindol, we immediately deployed our engineers throughout the region to assess immediately the damage that was caused and immediately start mobilizing our equipment to primarily clear roads caused by landslides especially, but also immediately assess the integrity of critical infrastructure such as bridges, as well as public hospitals. No? So very important kasi in times of disaster yung ating public hospitals kasi yan ang kailangan puntahan agad ng mga kababayan nating nasaktan. No? And as well as the classrooms that will also be needed and used as evacuation sites later on.
Well, dito naman sa Metro Manila, Secretary, we are always bracing for the big one. Who have you put in charge to check also on all government structures?
Yes, we as early as 2 weeks ago, we already ordered the checking of all critical infrastructure under DPWH, namely bridges and roads throughout the country, in order to prepare for this. But I mean, we can only do so much, Seth. We don't know when this is going to hit, but we have to do what we can. So we have asked already to like for example, yung pong bumagsak sa Cagayan na bridge, unfortunately, man-made yun, hindi yun natural calamity, man-made calamity yun. But we already are starting to build the detour bridges there, and we have already ordered detour bridges to be built already proactively in the other 5 critical bridges in the Cagayan Valley. So most likely we will be doing the same to serve as redundancies in major bridges throughout the country. So this is something that we are studying right now so we can implement it right away.
If we can zero in on that bridge for a while, was that caused by age or because there were, again, substandard or matagal na yung bridge pero hindi ba dapat nakita rin yun maaga pa?
Yes. The proximate cause, meaning the immediate cause, was really the overloaded trucks that crossed it simultaneously. There were 4 trucks, 2 big ones and 2 small ones, that, unfortunately crossed at the same time, because there was no traffic management in the bridge, to control the flow of the traffic. Clearly, those trucks were way above the limit of the bridge. However, what we saw as well and reviewed from the records was that this 45-year-old bridge was only retrofitted once in 2016. And that retrofit, I checked the budget, it was only 11.7 million pesos. So it was very limited, very minimal. So I think while the proximate cause was the overloading, I think the lack of maintenance and retrofitting for a bridge that's over 40 years was also played part in that. No? But we will just have to deal with it and build a new one right away.
And just to clarify, Secretary Vince, no, on the matter of the Pigatan Bridge as well as all the other bridges that are part of the national highway, whose job is it really to traffic the entrance and exits of the bridge? Or is it DPWH personnel or is it LGU personnel?
For the traffic management, unfortunately, I don't want to point fingers at others, no, but it's really the local enforcement that should be in charge of that. But nonetheless, I think we all should work together to find solutions to this. So when I was there the other day, upon instructions of the president, we found three things we could do immediately. Number one, build the detour bridge as soon as possible. So that has already started yesterday. Hopefully in 60 days or less, we will have that up and running. It is a temporary bridge, but it will actually have double the capacity of the bridge that collapsed. The second one is we have spoken to the DOTR Secretary Lopez, to assist the local government in Cagayan to find alternative ways of moving palay and corn, which are the two biggest produce of the Cagayan Valley, especially now that it's harvest season.
Okay.
To use
Secretary,
barges and yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you with this
worries.
just in. Another earthquake struck in Manay, Davao Oriental at 7:12
yes.
this evening. 7:12 this evening. According to FIVOX, the magnitude is 6.9. And another tsunami warning is up. Well, darkness has fallen, and we hope our kababayans will be safe and are hearing this will follow the warning of the FIVOX. But to continue our conversation, Secretary, so that's about Cagayan. How do you divide these tasks? Kasi you still have the investigation into the flood control scandal. Then you have all these fires you have to put out, so to speak.
Yes, well, we just have to rely on the institution. Obviously, this cannot be done by just one person. No, so we have to rely on our engineers. We have to rely on our people on the ground. And I'm very proud of the people that have worked, especially during the calamities. Just now, we've been hit by a barrage of calamities, from typhoons to an earthquake in Cebu, an earthquake in La Union, and now an earthquake in southern Mindanao. But our people there on the ground are working 24/7, and they are working with all agencies of government upon direct instruction from the president himself to act quickly and immediately provide the relief that our affected people need. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we just have to continue on doing.
Well, so much on your plate right now, Secretary, but earlier today you already announced the indefinite suspension on all road reblocking projects nationwide. And you did say, Secretary, this is a decades-long problem already, but what anomalies did you really find apart from yung binabakbak yung mga kalye? Kasama rin po ba yung paggamit ng substandard materials that aren't durable, yung nasisira in just 1 to 2 years? Is that also part of the problem? And what parameters will you include in your forthcoming department order to address that?
Okay, we've been receiving several reports, but these reports are really, they're reports now, but we all know that this has been going on for so long. And in fact, our people have been watching this and have been, quietly enraged by seeing good roads, at least just by looking at them, they're okay. And all of a sudden, you see heavy equipment destroying them and patching them up again. So this is something that I think must not continue anymore. We have to find a way to do things better and make sure that we build better roads and we don't destroy good ones just to find a way to make money, and use these excuses of reblocking just for the sake of spending money that can be spent for other more important things. So it's a suspension order that we have imposed nationwide, except for maintenance activities such as if a drainage needs to be fixed or if a water line needs to be fixed. But if it is a perfectly okay road, we will not allow this to go on anymore. And we will be imposing very, very strict guidelines on the instances wherein this is actually necessary. And it just can't be done at any point in time, anywhere. I think this needs to stop.
All right, you do have so much on your plate, and actually, this is quite personal. I noticed since you transferred from the DOTR to the DPWH, you have not actually had your 100% voice ever. And what is, to add to also what Ces's line of questioning earlier, how do you plan to divide your time? Are you planning to put up a task force maybe within the DPWH just to handle the investigations? Because, sometimes you have a meeting, diba? No. Alignment meetings with the Ombudsman, the Solgen, and then biglang may earthquake dito, may baha dito, on top of everything else. What is your plan to be able to efficiently allocate your time?
I think we're very fortunate that the President acted quickly on our request for replacing top management in the DPWH. So I think we're just pending maybe 3 or 4 more high-level management people coming in. But we have already replaced most of the former undersecretaries that were there. Mm-hmm. Just yesterday, we administered the oath to the new Undersecretary for Planning to replace former Undersecretary Cathy Cabral. And we just have to rely and trust these people. We know them well. They're people with integrity. They're very new to the department, which I think is a good thing given what the department is going through. But they are very, very professional and very experienced. So we just have to rely on them and on their expertise. And right now for the investigations, there are 3 critical undersecretaries in charge of that. Undersecretary Arthur Bisnar, former PNP General, Ato Bisnar, Undersecretary Rafi Torgano of Legal, and Undersecretary Rico Bernabe under our office in the Office of the Secretary. So they are the ones talking to the ICI, talking to the Solgen, now talking. I was with them last night with the Solgen and our new ombudsman. So we just have to trust that they will do the job well and quickly, because all of these things need to be done swiftly because our people deserve quick justice, quick investigation, but at the same time quick responses to these calamities and quick responses to critical infrastructure that needs to be fixed.
Well, you really hit the ground running, Secretary. I wanted to go back to the investigation into flood control projects. You already partnered with AMLAC, with the Philippine Competition Commission, but next week you are going to meet Insurance Commissioner Ray Regalado. What will come out of that partnership, Secretary? Can we really still recover some funds from these anomalous projects? And will the contractors be required to fix itong mga substandard projects nila, pati mga ghost project?
Yes, this is all part of what we call restitution, no? Kailangan ibalik, no? Yung nawalang pera, yung ninakaw na pera, kailangan ibalik yan. Ibabalik yan, number one. We have already worked with the AMLC and the ICI and the DOJ to freeze the assets very quickly of the involved individuals. I think the AMLAC just released their 5th freeze order, which now brings up the tally of frozen accounts to, I think, 1,700 almost, and plus other properties and other assets. Now, the next step there needs to be, how do we get those assets back? How do the people get their money back? And that was the topic of our meeting yesterday. Upon specific instructions of our president, to really work together with the other agencies, the Solgen and now our new ombudsman, to find a way to quickly get the money back. But we are also working with the Insurance Commission because all these projects have bonds. They have performance securities attached to them. And we have to exhaust all possibilities to get every centavo that we can back from these contractors involved in these anomalous contracts.
What was the result
we
of
have to
your...
work with everybody, and we have to throw everything at these people.
What was the result of your meeting with the Ombudsman and with the Solgen last night, you said?
I think it was very good. We divided our tasks. Obviously, the Ombudsman will be the one finally filing the cases with the appropriate courts, specifically the Sandigan Bayan. But of course, the Ombudsman needs information. The Ombudsman needs evidence. And that is what the ICI and the DPWH, in coordination with the ICI, will help provide. For the Solicitor General, I think our main partnership with her will be on the future filing of forfeiture cases. These are cases where, while assets have been frozen, they still need to be recovered and returned to the people, to the government. And this is going to be a partnership between us, the DPWH, the AMLAC, and the Solicitor General's office. So all of these things have to happen simultaneously because we need to make people held to account, but at the same time we also need to get the people's money back.
Right. The evidence that you have, is it sufficient? Is the Ombudsman satisfied? Because he wants to file airtight cases para mabilis ang paglilitis.
I think at least based on the first two cases that are already with the Ombudsman, meaning the first Bulacan case that we filed with the help of the Commission on Audit, and the ICI referral of the Oriental Mindoro case against former Congressman Zaldico and SunWest and the Vizcaya companies. According to the Ombudsman, the initial review is that they are very strong cases. So, and I think that is why I think during his first press conference, the Ombudsman was quite confident that cases can be filed with the Sandigan Bayan very soon.
Okay.
And we are very confident that the future cases that we will be working with the ICI on will also be very strong cases.
And yung mga evidence na sinira, I don't know, sinunog, or were you able to reconstitute this?
Yes, there were backup files that were recovered to ensure that the other tampered files that were initially reported would still have, we would still have backups to those tampered files. So thankfully, Undersecretary Bisnar, who was, at one point in time part of the CIDG and the PNP, was able to act quickly on that to ensure the integrity of the document.
Secretary, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, Senator Gatchalian had a statement that he did in the Kapihan sa Senado. He said, buwagin na lang daw yung DPWH so we can have a fresh start. In your opinion, having been the secretary of that department for like over a month now, do you think may pag-asa pa ba? Or okay ba may merit ba yung suggestion ni Senator Win na we just start from scratch?
I would ask Senator Gatchalian and others. First of all, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. But I think maybe we should be given a little time to see if we can still reform the institution. I believe we can. And at the same time, it would be quite difficult to really start from scratch because as we have seen just in the past couple of weeks, when disaster strikes, we need this agency to act and to act swiftly to address the immediate needs of our people whenever calamity strikes. And that's just for a calamity, not to mention the thousands of projects that are absolutely necessary all over the country, which, by the way, the economy is also heavily dependent on, especially on infrastructure spending. So I know there is that inclination to just say, let's tear this whole thing down and rebuild from scratch.
Yeah.
But that is really easier said than done. And I would like to ask Senator Gatchalian maybe a little more time and let's see if we can still find a way to salvage and reform the agency.
Anyway, magkasama kayo bukas. But one last question, Secretary.
No, with his brother.
With his brother.
With
Si Rex.
With Secretary Rex Gatchalian, yes.
Okay.
But I'll tell him also.
Well, one last question. Parang tumatakbong metro sa taxi itong bilang ng ghost projects. I mean, one day you have this number and then it increases the following day. Ano na ba talaga ang figure ngayon, Secretary? And how far are you?
You know, I think...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Seth, you know, I think we all have to understand that there are thousands and thousands of projects of DPWH. Completed projects, ongoing projects, and, as you said, questionable projects that are either non-existent, ghost, or substandard, no? And remember, the President ordered that the ICI investigate the last 10 years. And we're talking about thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of projects here. So the validation efforts that are being undertaken continuously will take time, Seth, no? That's why every report that we give, this is just of a certain date. But the validations and the inspections continue. And these need to be validated on the ground by various agencies because it is virtually impossible for the DPWH or the ICI to do this on their own. That's why we sought the help of our armed forces, of our police, of the NBI, of the Department of Development, of the former NEDA, to help us really evaluate and check. So these numbers will be changing week by week, month by month, as we try to validate as many as we can from the last 10 years. So we're talking about 2016 to current. So all I ask is, I think, and all we're asking is some patience because this is not something that we can do overnight. And it will continue, but that is the only way to go. Now we have to look at the projects. Are they ghost projects? Are they substandard projects? And those will be the basis of the cases that will be eventually filed. And if I would just lastly just repeat what the President said, we cannot afford to file weak cases. Because what we want here is not just to file cases, what we want here is to convict those who are guilty. And that will require meticulous work and very, very meticulous documentation of all the evidence in order to ensure convictions later on. Para naman hindi lang makakawala yung mga kakasuhan.
Tama naman. Thank you so much for talking to us again, Public Works Secretary
Thank you so much.
Vince Dizon.
And here is the agency that Secretary Vince Dizon left for the DPWH. There is another reshuffle among officials under the DOTR or the Transportation Department. Special Envoy for Transnational Crime Marcos Lacanila will be the new chair of the LTO or Land Transportation Office. He replaces Vigor Mendoza, who in turn will become the chairman of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB. Outgoing LTFRB chief Teofilo Guadis III is now the new head of the Office of Transportation Cooperatives. So far, we've only heard from new LTO Chair Lacanilao, who vowed to combat corruption in the agency. And that is by imposing stricter rules on the entry of luxury cars into the country and removing unnecessary fees that burden motorists.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, the International Criminal Court denies former President Rodrigo Duterte's plea for an interim release. And it didn't help that his own daughter, the vice president, threatened to break him out of detention. We have the details of that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You're still watching The Big Story. The request of former President Rodrigo Duterte's defense team for his interim release has been rejected by the pre-trial chamber of the International Criminal Court. Under ICC rules, interim release may be granted if the accused is not of light risk, does not pose a risk to the public if released, and cannot interfere with the investigation or intimidate witnesses. Personal circumstances like health may also be considered. In its decision released today, the ICC deemed Duterte's detention necessary, citing that he failed to all these three factors for temporary freedom. The court found Duterte's earlier refusal to recognize ICC jurisdiction. The Gong supporters even called the detention a kidnapping.
The ICC pre-trial chamber also noted that Duterte appears to have the necessary political contacts in the Philippines, including Vice President Sara Duterte, that could help him bolt. The chamber added that if interim release were to be granted, Duterte could pose a threat to potential witnesses either directly or indirectly through his supporters. And as to his medical condition, the chamber said, the documents submitted by the defense do not indicate how Duterte's alleged physical condition or cognitive impairment negate the risks. The chamber thereby rejected both the urgent request for interim release and the renewed request for interim release filed by Duterte's legal team and ordered the continued detention of former President Duterte.
Back here at home, Ombudsman Boying Remulla laid out several reforms under his term on his first day in office. And first of which is to reverse the access restriction on the statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth, or SALINs, imposed during former President Rodrigo Duterte's term. Before his appointment, Remulla said he was open to reviewing this policy set by his predecessor, Samuel Martires. Remulla said he will release a memo next week on this, and it will include how SALINs will be requested and what information will be redacted. Remulla also noted that all SALINs of government officials may be requested, including that of the President and the Vice President. He also announced that his office will resume conducting lifestyle checks in the government.
We need requesting parties to ask for the information. Tsaka baka ma-weaponize. Ang kailangan dyan, may undertaking tayo pag kumukuha tayo. When we talk about transparency, let's go all the way. Lahat yan. Pati kami. Kasama kami dyan. I want to open this to the public. I want to open this office to the public. Kasi dapat ito sumbungan ng bayan eh. Di ba?
Remulla is also eyeing a special division in the Sandigan Bayan that will only handle cases on ghost flood control projects. He also intends to discuss this with the anti-graft court next week. Remulla says out of the initial 100 to 200 individuals potentially liable in the flood control project scandal, about 15 are ripe for prosecution, and cases may be filed as early as November.
Ang gusto ko kasing style talaga, when we file the case, we're ready for trial. Hindi pwedeng hindi. Para we can ask for a continuous trial, so there will be no delays in the hearings that we have to conduct. We will be filing a lot of cases with the Sandigan Bayan.
Meantime, the Senate maintains that it has custody over resource persons cited in contempt after contractor Curly Discaya filed a petition for habeas corpus. Discaya is currently detained inside the Senate premises along with dismissed DPWH engineers Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, and JP Mendoza after being cited in contempt last September 18. Discaya has sought relief before the Pasay Regional Trial Court, with the presiding judge resuming the hearing on Monday. For now, the judge has ordered a status quo, something that Senate President Tito Soto says is, quote, a blessing in disguise.
The Solicitor General will be representing us on Monday sa Pasay RTC, but I believe that we are on the right path because mas madali nga blessing in disguise na napag-tap namin sila sapagkat pag kailangan sila ng DOJ at kailangan sila ng ICI, madaling imbitahin galing dito, hindi kailangan hanapin, hindi kailangan walang makakapagtago.
Meanwhile, members of the Blue Ribbon Committee are set to discuss who will permanently head the powerful yet controversial panel. This is after Acting Chairperson Erwin Tulfo and Senator Pia Cayetano both expressed interest taking up the mantle for good.
We'll discuss it one of these days. We will have to ask the committee to discuss that. Mas pabuting hindi ako solo mag-decision.
The Senate has adjourned for the Undas break and will return on November 15. And despite coup attempts to unseat Soto, the last plenary session ended without fireworks and lasted for just 8 minutes.
Now, lots of issues to discuss with our next guest tonight. So let's bring him in. Senate Finance Committee Chair Win Gatchalian. Good evening, Senator.
Good evening, Seth. Good evening to our listeners.
Senator, the ICC has rejected the request for interim release of the former president. And you were one of the 15 senators who voted for on a resolution urging the ICC to put him under house arrest on humanitarian grounds. So what do you say to this?
Well, that's the sense of a Senate. So meaning the Senate feels that because of advanced age and also medical condition, that the former president should be afforded with extra care in terms of medical attention. And that can only happen if the medical attention will be given in a house arrest manner. So that's the sense of the Senate.
But, well, it appears that it had no force on the ICC and may have even convinced the ICC, although it's not in its decision, that the former president still has influence and power. Imagine the Senate passing a resolution, expressing the sense of the Senate.
I think the power has nothing to do with the sense of the Senate because we crossed party lines. Majority, minority voted in favor of this sense of the Senate. So not all of those who voted in favor of this resolution are allies of the former president. So I don't think that's a fair statement to say.
All right. It was a political statement by the Senate?
No, it's a sense of the Senate. There's no political statement in that.
All right. Now let's.
And I think we explained it properly that for humanitarian grounds and also to afford the former president urgent medical attention. I think that was very clear in the resolution.
But Senator, was this resolution filed before the ICC? Because Attorney Gilbert Adres did say that for this to be even considered by the International Criminal Court, it has to be filed before them.
Well, it's a sense of the Senate. So it's the what the senators feel that it should be done, and what the senators feel that it should be what is proper proper treatment. What proper treatment should be given to the former president, considering of his advanced age and also the medical condition that he is in.
All right, now let's move on to the budget. The House there has been much debate about unprogrammed funding over there, but they decided not to bring it down to zero, which you want, if we understand it correctly.
Yes.
So when
yes.
This will be what you'll push for when the budget gets to the Senate?
Well, in my consultation with the other senators, they feel that removing the unprogrammed funds will reduce the susceptibility of corruption, considering that in the previous years, half of the unprogrammed funds for the SAGIP program was used for flood control. And the SAGIP program is a lump sum program. So, meaning there's no line item in the GAA. So, because of that lump sum amount, the senators feel that we should remove it. And when we remove it, that will reduce the discretion of appropriating funds to flood control. At the same time, the other items in the unprogrammed funds can also be removed and put to program appropriations. That will give it certainty in terms of appropriating funds to important programs. So we will have to talk about it because our position is to remove it and the House position is to retain it. So we will just have to talk about it later on.
So this will be reconciled in a very public and transparent and live stream by cam, right? Maybe? Or
Yeah.
have you spoken to Representative Mika Swansing about maybe meeting halfway? Because right now it stands at 250 billion, more or less?
Yes. So I haven't talked to her about it, but we have to justify. They have to justify to us why it has to be retained. We will justify to them why it has to be removed, and let's listen to the justification.
Well, Senator, during the budget deliberation of the Agriculture Department, you flagged anomalous, not flood control projects, but farm-to-market roads. Sinabi niyo po, over 10 billion pesos was lost already to these extremely overpriced projects. But it turns out, Senator, that the liability authority isn't even with the Agriculture Department. It's still with the DPWH. As early as now, Senator, may naiisip na po ba kayong legislation reforms in order to address this problem?
Well, we suggested to Secretary Tiu Laurel that instead of DPWH building it, they should be the one building it. So accountability will be clear. And he agreed. And he accepted the challenge of Department of Agriculture building it themselves. And I believe with the experience of Secretary Tiu Laurel, he can build it cheaper and faster because of his previous experience. So what's important now is accountability because nagtuturuan sila eh. They're pointing fingers and that's not good to find out. It's not good because we cannot find out who are the culprits of this overpriced FMR road.
Do you have a figure?
There's overpricing.
Magkano po? Do you have a figure?
About 16 billion. About 16 billion.
Because in a previous
At least
in a previous interview,
the overpricing?
yes, that much?
No, the overpriced amount is about 10 billion.
Well, because in a
about
previous
10 billion.
interview on this program, Secretary Tiu Laurel said it was just about 150 million to 300.
The overpricing?
Yes. The amount that, or even
that is
ghost.
per kilometer. I think he mentioned he said it's overpriced 300,000 per meter. That's 300 million per kilometer.
I suppose this was when their audit was completed.
Actually, it hasn't been completed. Earlier on, we asked them again, and they're still auditing it. But initially, they've already seen overpricing. They've already seen those projects. So they will submit to us the final report, hopefully before the budget ends.
I think the proposal, Senator, is to cut the budget of farm-to-market roads by 30%. Is that possible, Senator?
That's possible. That's possible because he said the figure of 30% overpricing came from him. So we were proposing if you think it's overpriced by 30%, then let's cut it by 30%.
Okay,
So and we're okay with that because 30% that's approximately 5 billion in savings.
But how sure are we, Senator, no, na hindi magiging 30% less yung roads na mabibuild instead of 30% less sa cost? Yeah, what safeguards are you thinking of?
We will clearly put it in the GAA, the length of the road. In fact, it's in the GAA. The length of the road is in the GAA. So we will maintain the length of the road. The only thing we will reduce is the price.
Okay. Okay, let's move on over to another topic, Senator. House Speaker Bojidi has already spoken up and has sought the cancellation of the passport of former Congressman Zaldico. Apart from this, do you think there's anything else that the Senate can do, maybe along with Congress, to compel him to return to the Philippines?
He has to come back and be answerable to all of these allegations and anomalies. His name is all over the place. His company's name is all over the place. Even in this flood, even in this farm to market road issue. The third highest company that got farm to market road is High Tone, which is owned by his brother. So, and High Tone is also part of the top 15 flood control contractors. So this is not coincidental that you're top in flood control, you're also top in farm to market road. So he has to be answerable. If he's saying that he has nothing to hide, then come back and answer all of these accusations.
Senator, we just got off our interview with Secretary Vince Dizon about your proposal to just demolish the DPWH and just start anew. But he's asking for a little time to prove that it can still be salvageable. What do you think, Senator?
Well, I believe in Secretary Dizon. I know I've worked with him. I've seen him in action. I believe that he will bring change to DPWH. But with the scale of corruption, just remember, yesterday he said that 421.
Yes.
There are 421 ghost projects across the country. That's the entire Philippines. And these are the projects he discovered. So the corruption is not only happening in Bulacan or in one district, engineering district. It's happening all over the country.
Yes.
So it will take time for him to really change all of this. So out of frustration, I think the fastest way of reforming the agency is to start a new agency. At least you can hire new engineers, new people, idealistic people to help you. But of course, that's an extreme suggestion.
Yes.
It's a suggestion out of frustration because of what we are hearing right now.
But we're also very concerned because ang dami niyang ginagawa. It's impossible rin for one department to attend to all these natural disasters that just happened and have an investigation ongoing and still run the department. It's a lot to ask. You're right.
Yeah, definitely. But Secretary Dizon has proven himself in many tough conditions. Remember, he was a testing charge during the during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So he has proven himself in tough situations. So I believe that he can fix it. But the question is how fast. No, that's the challenge.
All right, we thank you so much for your time, Senator Win
Thank you.
Gatchalian. Now, in other news, a trillion peso march movement has started its weekly White Friday protest, where anti-corruption advocates wear white ribbons, light candles, and hold a noise barrage to demand transparency and accountability in government spending. The protest will be held every Friday in the run-up to the major rally on November 30. Now, let's get an update from mobile journalist Francis Rivera live from EDSA Shrine. Francis, anong latest?
Ses, tapos na ang programa pero nag-umpisa na nga itong unang Friday para sa isasagawang White Friday protest na inorganisa ng trillion peso march movement dito sa EDSA Shrine. Kaliwat ka ng panawagan, iisa ang sigaw. Gaya na lang ng ikulong na yan, mga kurakot at pera ng bayan, ibalik na yan. Ilan sa mga dumalo sa White Friday protest ang ilang grupo gaya ng Akbayan Youth, Tindig Pilipinas, Ilocano Defenders Party List, August 21 Movement at Mamamayang Liberal. Parte ng kanilang program ang Noise Barrage kung saan ang sigaw nila, busina laban sa kurakot. Matapos ito, agad naman sinumula ng misa na pinangunahan ni Father Tony Labiao. Matapos ang ginanap na misa, nagpatuloy ang programa sa candle lighting. Nagtapos ang programa sa pamamagitan ng community singing ng Ang Bayang Ko. Sa hangad nila na may managot sa mga nangyaring korupsyon sa bansa. Ilang buwan na raw kasi mula nung sona ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos hanggang ngayon wala pa raw nakukulong. Ilan pa sa panawagan nila ay maibalik ang perang nanakaw galing sa buwis ng bayan. Transparency kung saan isa publiko raw ang salin ng mga nasangkot. Bukod dito sa EDSA Shrine, may lumahok din mula sa ibang lugar gaya sa may Taft Avenue, Fisher Mall, City Mall Malabon, pati sa Cebu, Bacolod, Iloilo, nakiisa rin daw sa White Friday protest. Ses, panimula pa nga lamang ito at magpapatuloy ang White Friday protest sa mga susunod na Friday. Paghahanda raw ito para sa mas malaki at mas malawakang protesta sa November 30. Ses?
Maraming salamat. Thank you so much, mobile journalist Francis Rivera.
Moving on to another story. If you are wondering, nope, the Nobel Peace Prize did not go to U.S. President Donald Trump as he repeatedly said he wanted. Instead, it went to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. That's for promoting democracy and fighting dictatorship in her authoritarian country. The 58-year-old industrial engineer was blocked by Venezuela's courts last year from challenging the regime of Nicolas Maduro, who has been in power since 2013. American President Donald Trump has been obsessed with the Nobel Peace Prize for years. And this year, Israel even backed Trump to bag the award for brokering the first phase of the peace deal in Gaza. But this farmer even plowed his field with the words Nobel for Trump. The Norwegian Nobel Committee, which hands out the prize, explained why they chose Machado out of 244 people and 94 organizations nominated this year.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 goes to a brave and committed champion of peace, to a woman who keeps the flame of democracy burning amidst a growing darkness. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 to Maria Corina Machado. At a time when democracy is under threat, it is more important than ever to defend this common ground.
And for our big picture tonight, before we say goodbye, we present the 5 hotels bestowed with the prestigious Michelin One Key or Michelin One Key distinction for a very special stay. The Michelin Guide has broadened its annual recognition to include outstanding stays in other countries. And for the Philippines' debut year, 5 made the cut. They are Amanpulo Island, Dusetani Mactan, Cebu Resort, the Fairmont Makati, and its neighboring Raffles Makati, as well as Naipalad Hideaway in Siargao. Michelin said, quote, "The key hotels don't just fulfill one criteria, these are the best of the best in all categories."
The best of the best and also expensive.
The best of the best in price.
Yeah. No, but those are very, very beautiful destinations. But ladies, heading into the weekend, of course, our hearts go out to all our kababayan sa Davao. There was another earthquake.
Yeah. And it's very, that aftershock was 6.9.
6.9.
That's not considered an aftershock, is it?
But I think technically, like, as
Because
long
it's in
it
the
comes
same-
after and it's weaker, it becomes an aftershock. So is it a main?
It's considered a main earthquake.
Another main earthquake.
Because there was a tsunami alert.
Yeah, another for it, right?
Yeah.
So 2 tsunami alerts today, 2 earthquakes.
Yeah.
But earlier, FIVOX director si Katoto, Teresito Bacolcol, was telling Cheryl Cosim that this is not related to the previous earthquake, so they don't see any pattern that there will be a big...
Parang Bogo Bay fault ito dun sa Philippine Trench.
Yeah, but we're very...
Paranoid.
We can also be very superstitious.
Superstitious.
Na nagagalit ang Diyos.
Or at least binubulat-lat niya, di ba? Ang lahat ng substandard na infrastructure.
Pero ang mga karaniwang tao doon kayo mag-earthquake wag na lang. Sa karaniwang tao
Doon lang
na pipinsala,
yun lang. So you're right, Pawi, We should have double, triple prayers over this weekend for everybody.
And it's best to always prepare, di ba? Your go bag. I was thinking about buying a go bag already to make sure you're prepared, right?
You should have one.
Any bag will do. You don't have to buy
your necessities.
I guess her supplies. Yung mga battery, ganyan, di ba?
Flashlight and all. Right, but unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this week. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Big Story.
We are back on Monday at 7:30 p.m. We will see you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a restful weekend.